Martin, is the recording in place?
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Martin. Okay, welcome everyone. It's the meeting of the Cabinet of North East Derbyshire District Council. The date is the 27th of January. It's 4:30. With me in the chamber, we have Councillor Cupit, Councillor Powell, and Councillor Rennick, and I'm Councillor Dale. As well as officers, we have Matt Broughton, a director, Sarah Sternberg as the monitoring officer, Jane Dethick as a Section 151 officer, and Chris Mills as our leisure operations manager. And I think on screen we have Councillor Parkin, Jill Callingham as a director, and Alan Marr from governance. Okay, so we'll get started with the meeting. Apologies for absence. We've received apologies from Councillor Kenyon, who is running late, but he's hoping to be here very shortly. He's stuck in traffic on the A61, I believe. And are there any others, Alan?
None received, Chair.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Declarations of interest from anyone? No, okay. Minutes of the last meeting. I'll move them as a true and accurate record. Do we have a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Rennick. So all those in favour? Okay, that's carried. And then we come to the first paper, which is the Council Plan Targets Performance Update. I'm not going to dwell too much on this paper. It's there in full detail within the pack. I think needless to say, we are making good progress towards a lot of our council plan aims and ambitions, despite the impact of COVID, which has obviously been pretty present in the past month or so, at least, certainly with the Omicron variant and various other challenges we've had. So yeah, I think we're on track. Clearly, there are some targets that we're not meeting, and they'll continue to be reviewed by portfolio holders and raised appropriately with officers as required. So I don't think there's anything else, unless anyone else wants to highlight any other points on that paper. If not, I'll move the recommendations, which I think are that we note it. Just go back to the we note the quarterly outturns. We mark Eco 04 as achieved within the key KPIs, and that we mark Eco 09, 16, and 21 as achieved, and their respective strategy action plans be monitored more fully through a suite of KPIs and service plan targets. So I'll happily move those recommendations. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cupit. All those in favour? Okay, thank you. That's carried. And then the next report, I'll get back to the agenda, is the medium-term financial plan. So I'm going to hand over to Councillor Parkin first, just to introduce this.
Thank you very much, Chair, and apologies for not being able to be with you today, but happy to be presenting this paper. So today I'm presenting the MTFP for the current year's budget, which we approved in November. The original budget for 22-23 and the planning budgets for the following 3 years, stretching right out to 25-26. So the current year's budget remains largely unchanged, not surprising since it was November that we passed it. And since it was approved, we're not anticipating any material changes at this time. COVID is still having an impact in these budgets, but much less than last year. Some services are still recovering from loss of income compared to pre-pandemic levels, but it's pleasing to note that they continue to improve. The COVID assistance grant that we received last year will be utilised to meet cost pressures and lost income, so there isn't really any additional pressure on the budget at this time, you'll be glad to hear. The national settlement was announced on the 20th of December, and we actually were very pleasantly surprised by the outcome. The new homes bonus, which was widely speculated not to be in this settlement, turned out to be in there and helped us enormously. So because of our considerable growth in new homes last year, we received a one-off payment, okay, of £609,000. In addition to that, the lower tier services grant has been paid again in 22-23. So again, this is for 1 year only, and our allocation is £126,000. Finally, there is a new one-off services grant in 2022 to 2023 based on the existing settlement funding assessment, and our reward from this is £193,000. Now, these one year settlements are all well and good, and we keep pushing them back year by year by year. But ultimately, the government plans to consult over the next year on updating the funding system, and have for the first time confirmed that there will be transitional protections when we eventually get the new settlements. So and that's to accompany any funding reforms and kind of to soften the blow. So it's important to us and a lot of councils around the country, and it'll give us a chance to adjust our own funding plans. And there appears to be a genuine attempt at levelling up in this settlement, levelling up between councils, of course, not necessarily anywhere else, but levelling up between councils in this settlement, in that it gives us some hope that in the upcoming review, this approach will be continued. But I guess we still have to wait for the outcome of that review. It is also important to note that the settlement information clearly states that the additional funding is one-off. I'm emphasising it for a reason. So whilst we are in a better position for 2022/23, we've effectively just moved that funding gap on 1 more year, which is good for us, but we need a little bit more certainty when we get a chance. So in summary, the additional funding from the settlement of £927,000 has been built into the 2022/23 budget, allowing us to set a balanced budget. Okay, another balanced budget, should I say. So forecasting for 2023 onwards remains challenging because we don't know the outcome of any settlement or transitional funding. And until we know about those, it's very difficult for us to make accurate predictions about what's going to happen in the future. And so, as usual, we've used the best possible information we have and assumptions, and we'll review them as soon as we know anything different. So on to the budget. You'll be glad to know that I don't plan to go through every number in every table. However, I will draw your attention to table 1, which is on page 47 of your packs, should you wish to have a look at that. And that summarises the position for next year, assuming that the council tax increases as recommended by us are approved by council, then the budget is balanced without any need for additional efficiencies. However, as I said earlier, the additional settlement funding is a one-off, which means that we need to maintain the momentum that we've already got going to make sure we reap the benefits of those ongoing efficiencies, because these are going to become more and more important in 23/24, 24/25. So in terms of reserves, as efficiencies, an efficiencies plan has been included with the NTFP to provide additional information on how budget gaps in future years will be met. This is in Appendix 3, if you want to take a look at that. And progress against the plan will be monitored through the budget monitoring process. In terms of reserves, these remain at acceptable levels. The resilience reserve will continue to provide resilience against budget gaps or unforeseen expenditure in the future, and the invest to save reserve remains at a healthy level, and will continue to be utilised for spend to save initiatives. For council tax this year, we are recommending to council a £5 increase this year. There are no major changes to report in the HRA. We are recommending to council that rents increase in line with government guidance, and this is something that this council has always followed. And so 4.1% this year. The RHL management fee has been renegotiated in line with the requirements of the new agreement. Thank you, Councillor Powell, and others. Will be 9.75 million for the next year. The general fund capital programme is relatively static at the moment. The current capital programme includes additional budgets for further modernisation works on our non-traditional stock. And I think that's me. Are there any questions or comments about this MTFP paper?
Thanks very much, Councillor Parkin. Are there any comments or questions from you? No? Anything you'd like to add, Jane?
No, thank you, Chair. Councillor Parkin presented it very well. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. Anything else, Councillor Parkin, before we move on?
No, I'm comfortable with the information we provided Cabinet today.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Okay, I'll happily move the recommendations within the report. Obviously, wish to thank Councillor Parkin and Jane and all of the team for all of their work. A huge amount of work goes into this every year, and it's a year-round job. I fully appreciate as well. I think the amount of work that we've done as a whole organisation, actually, to detail some of those savings targets and efficiencies over the forthcoming years has been really impressive. And actually, I'm always reminded that when we took office, we were reminded by our opposition of a significant deficit in future years, and the paper before us is really clear around how much work's gone into to addressing that. Clearly, that times will still be a challenge moving forward, but actually we've got a clear plan to deal with those challenges and balance budgets for the years to come. So I think that's really, it's testament to how much work's gone into it, and impressive, and very much shows what we as an administration can achieve. The other thing I'd just add is that clearly with council tax, it's always a very, very difficult decision for any administration to make. We've always got to balance our own needs as an organisation with, our residents' back pockets. And clearly, at the moment, it's a difficult, challenging period with the cost of living. So we do not take that decision lightly. But we also have to appreciate that we, as an organisation, are facing the same sorts of challenges. And I think that the 2.58% increase is, although not insignificant, I think it's modest in the grand scheme of things, and we do need it to be able to balance our budget moving forward and continue delivering excellent services for our residents. So I do think it's necessary, but that said, clearly, sympathies with residents who I know are struggling as well themselves at the moment. I don't think there's anything else I'm going to say, but other than move the paper. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Powell. All those in favour? Okay, thank you very much. That's approved. The next item's urgent items. I don't think there are any that I wish to raise, but I do just have a query about the parking strategy. On the top of the paper, it's labelled as public, but on the agenda, it's within the private session. I just wanted to query whether.
Yes, Chair. The explanation for that is that the paper doesn't include the exempt information that was originally expected. So as a consequence, with your agreement, it will be taken as a public item, and that the movement of public exclusion of public will take place after this paper has been dealt with. Thank you. That's
fine. So we'll move to item 8 on the agenda, which is the parking strategy, which we'll do now in public, as you say, Ellen, and then we'll exclude the public thereafter. So, okay, I'll hand over to Councillor Powell, who's going to talk to us about this paper.
Thank you, Chair. As we all recall, some time ago, one of our scrutiny committees looked at parking and came up with a number of ideas. We felt then that the council needed a more comprehensive parking strategy. As most of you know, a lot of our estates are of non-traditional house types, built shortly after the war, when car ownership was, if not zero, but very slight. Of course, all these years later, we're in a very much of a different world where people have 1, 2, or even more cars, and some of our estate roads are having great difficulty coping with it. It's a big task, however, because very little has been done over the intervening years. So we decided we would develop a strategy that we would use over a number of years. We would devote an amount in the budget per year, and that we would set a criteria for where our priorities should be. As a result of that and other pilot projects, we are now coming forward to recommend a number of our objectives. We're also looking at another method of surfacing car parking spaces, usually known as grasscrete, although other types are available. We're going to pilot that in Adlington Avenue at Wingerworth. That will be paid for by the residual amount of the budget of 288,000 per year that we've set, which comes from the housing revenue account. So we've got 5 projects to look at. The strategy includes the criteria, so we're absolutely transparent about where we go and what we do and how we do it. And on that basis, Chair, I would move the recommendations.
Thank you very much, Councillor Powell. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cupit?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Happy to second that and completely echo Councillor Powell's comments. I think, and just thanks to officers and members, I think as everybody knows, car parking and some of the problems is something I've been very passionate about, looking towards Jill at this point, and particularly the problems that residents face that I think all of us as elected members have sort of dealt with, and so I'm very grateful to the working group for the work that we've done to try and come up with a start. And this is just a start. I know there will be residents who'll say, what about my area? And so it is a start to try and start to work through it, because there are hundreds of sites throughout the district, but hopefully these schemes will provide us with a good kickstart and then opportunities and other methods to be able to carry that on in future years.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely agree, and thank Councillor Parkin and Councillor Powell rather, and Councillor Cupit for all of their work on it as well, because I know that there's been several working group meetings to try and drive this forward, and fully agree. I don't think there's anywhere in the district that doesn't have some challenges with parking. We hear about it as elected members a heck of a lot, and I think I'm really pleased that as an administration we're bringing forward potential solutions, and it won't be done overnight. Clearly, we've got lots of different areas and lots of potential areas where we can help. But I think by committing that important funding on an annual basis to deal with some of these issues, I think we will gradually over time chip away at them and hopefully improve a real bugbear for residents in the long term. So well done to everyone who's been involved, and thank you very much for the report. I'll move to the vote then. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. And then we'll move back to item 7, which is the exclusion of the public, and I therefore move that the public be excluded from the meeting during the discussion of the following items of business to avoid the disclosure to them of exempt information as defined in Part 1 of Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cupit. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried. If we just have it confirmed that the feed has stopped.